Welcome in on a Friday, 3304 daily, February 18th. Glad to have you along with us on the final day of the week, final show before we get into the weekend here. A lot of stuff to talk about. Ryan Wilkes back in the producer's chair and coming to us from the abyss, apparently. Ethan Owens joining us, as well as Amber Williams. A lot of stuff to get into today, a lot of tech sports. We've got Amber with an Olympics update at the end of the show. But I want to start out with this. And for those that listened yesterday, I mean, this is probably just going to sound really familiar, but I wanted to bring this back up today with, some new people in. Ryan back, of course. He's going to be on, most days, so I definitely wanted to get this across to him. So the idea that I brought up yesterday was an idea for ending our shows from now on. And I thought that it was a good idea for audience interactivity, as well as challenging the people that are coming on the show every day, myself, Ryan, all the people in the bullpen, all other contributors. I think that this would just help us become better sports fans, in the sense that this would not allow our show to fall into the NFL offseason abyss, where we find whatever we can talk about football. We're going to try to eventually, the NFL draft is going to come up sooner rather than later. So we're going to have comments on that, but I don't want it to be the main focus of the show every day. We cover tech athletics, so we're going to be bringing up a lot of that stuff too. But even just focusing more on professional stuff as well, being more diverse in what we're watching. So my idea, Amber, Ethan, Ryan, is at the end of each show, everyone here would come prepared with a game in any league to watch that night. A big matchup, something to highlight. So like yesterday, I gave the example. The NBA is pretty big, but it's not NFL big. So if you wanted to come to the table with, last night the Sixers and the Bucks played, if you wanted to come on this show with a game like that, I think that would work. I think that would be something that we could offer the audience and say, hey, here's what's on tonight. Go check it out. This is what we're going to be watching tonight. And then maybe the next day at the opening, if something interesting happened in that game, we can talk about it. What I did, some ground rules that I brought to the table. Don't bring up anything that's, just not good, like not quality. Try to go for the higher quality matchups. So the example I gave was that last night on ESPNU, so most people are able to get that channel, Murray State played Austin Peay. Now, Murray State is a nice mid-major school. They're a nice story. They're ranked. But don't give us that game against Austin Peay. Don't tell our audience, hey, dedicate 2 hours to this game. It's going to be a blowout, and it ended up being a blowout. If it was on an upset alert, that's something that you say, hey, you flip through the channels, you find that late in the game, you watch the end of it for the potential upset. But don't come on air and say, oh, yeah, go watch this matchup between two garbage teams. No, at the very least, let's try to give the people some quality teams to watch. Outside of that, I said no streaming services. If the game's main channel is ESPN Plus, any of the bonus like college networks, that might have to get thrown out the window. Now, I will amend that a little bit, because if we want to, tell people, hey, go watch this college softball game, go watch this college baseball game, a lot of the time that's not going to be on ESPN, ESPN2, any of the main Fox Sports channels. So I might have to amend that rule a little bit. And I think I had a third rule. Oh yeah, third rule. Let's try to all challenge ourselves to be more diverse in what we watch. So I want to challenge you guys that if you're going to bring a game to the table, it can't be a team that you root for. So you're not going to see me come on here and say, hey, the Red Wings are playing tonight. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say, hey, go watch this other NHL matchup instead. Go watch this other NBA matchup. Go watch this other college game between two, under the radar teams. I think that's what I want us to bring to the table each night. And at the end of the segment, I did also mention, we don't have to turn this into a gambling thing, but a good way to pique people's interests is just say, hey, focus in on this one player. Give them a prop. They don't have to put any money on this. This is not something where we have to say, hey, go bet this matchup, go bet this number. But just say, hey, tonight in the Lakers game, Russell Westbrook's over-under on turnovers is 4.5. And so you can go into that game and say, hey, I think he's going to go over that number. And then you watch with that intrigue or with that ability to be disappointed or rewarded for being on the right or wrong side of it. So I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. I think this is a good way that we can, moving forward, end the show, mention things that we, are interested in that night. And also, I think this could be good for the listeners too, because they can chime in at any time when we're doing this segment with, hey, this is a game that I'm going to be watching tonight, or this is something that I watched last night. And I think that could just help us get better in that department of, talking with our listeners. So I want to get your guys' thoughts on it. Ryan, I'll start with you since you're going to be on most of the time. What do you think about this segment of mine?
I like it. I think with only an hour, it kind of limits what we can bring to the table. Obviously, there's a lot going on in the NBA right now, but we have stuff that, you know, is more pertinent to the area that we're in. But I do like the, ability to kind of bring some of those storylines in, like pepper them in here and there. And I do think there's also a lot going on in college basketball. But there's also a lot going on college basketball wise in Blacksburg. So that's something that, we can bring to the table. We can bring more storylines from outside the area that is just going on in sports that can create intriguing conversations. And we are able to have a lot more flexibility in that category. And I think it should be really interesting what people bring to the table. I can think of a few things off the top of my head that I could, bring out a couple big games coming up that could possibly be a good talking point. So I do really like this idea.
All right, Ethan, Amber, do you guys have any thoughts? I mean, this is just like bring a game, one game. That's all. That's all I'm asking for. Just bring one game to the table each night, and I expect if you can just go through ESPN and just go through all the different leagues and see what's going on. There's going to be a big matchup somewhere. Like even just this weekend. This is the first weekend of college baseball, and we've already got a top 10 matchup between Oklahoma State and Vanderbilt. Like that's something that we could bring to the table one day. On a Friday, say, hey, this is a weekend series that's going on. Ethan, let's start with you. What do you think?
I mean, I definitely think it's a good idea. It's easy to get kind of in the routine of just getting on here every day, talking about Hokies, then talking about the NFL. Next thing you know, the hour's gone after you've done a segment, break and everything. So it's definitely something that would diversify the show a lot. Be able to talk about basketball. I mean, there's a lot of sports going on right now in this season. So I mean, it would be easy just to narrow it down to a couple games and have those on watch, and then it creates interesting concepts throughout the show. As like the next show you can talk about the games that happened last night, and I think it's a really good concept.
Amber, what about you? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I think it's really good too because people who aren't necessarily interested in certain sports or just haven't tried to watch them, if we bring like an NHL game that's supposed to be a really big matchup, that's probably going to be a good game, and then they can watch that and maybe they'll get into that sport. And I think it's just a great way to interact with the listeners and give them something to look forward to.
All right, so from what I've been hearing, it's been pretty positive across the board. So I think I want to implement this starting next week. I just want, and it helps us too in our show prep. I mean, again, it's super simple. I was just scrolling through ESPN yesterday, thinking about like, oh, what are some examples of games that I could talk about? Like last night, perfect example from me. Last night, and again, I know this is streaming service, whatever, but bear with me. Last night, you could say, hey, the biggest women's college basketball game going on right now is UNC Louisville. Two ranked teams. UNC just came off a loss to Tech, so I mean, there's a little bit of regional relevancy there. They go to Louisville, ranked matchup, two really good teams that we might see later on, especially in the ACC tournament. And then UNC keeps it close against one of the best teams in the country and pulls out a win at home by one. Like, that is the perfect example of what I'm looking for. Just give me a good matchup, one that we can expect to go down to the wire, have some dramatics, and then overall just become a rewarding experience to watch. Now, I was not able to watch that game, but I mean, I tried because Lord knows ACC NX is not user-friendly at all. But as soon as I heard that game was close, I immediately pulled up the stat sheet and said, hey, I need to follow this game down the wire. And I was able to follow the last couple minutes and see UNC pull that out from a box score, no less. But still, just watching that game, and especially, obviously, fandom plays a big role in it because if Louisville loses, that helps Tech out a little bit. So all of that coming into play, I think that moving forward, I think that's a good way to help us create content as well as get listener interactivity and pitch our listeners good ideas of what to watch that night. So that was an idea I had, and I think that with the response I'm getting from you guys, it's something that we should definitely start up. So looking forward to that. And for our listeners, I mean, what do you think? Text us in at 540-216-2231 or in the YouTube live chat. And yeah, I'm excited to get that started, and I think it'd help us really grow here. All right, let's move on now. So I wanted to go up until the top of the hour. We're talking all Tech basketball from both sides because, I mean, last night, look, I was working over at Hot 100, producing the women's game behind the scenes, and from the moment of tip-off, you could tell that what was going on last night was special because it was raining threes at the start. They really just did not miss the entire night, and the women's basketball team walks away with a 49-point victory at Syracuse. I mean, they almost doubled them up, 102-53. That is insane. It is a Carrier Dome record for most points scored in a women's basketball game ever. It is Tech's largest margin of victory ever. It got them their 12th program win, or 12th conference win, which is, again, most in program history. They're on a really nice win streak. And then, I mean, you've got the game coming up on Sunday against Louisville. You've got Asia Shepherd really coming close to breaking the all-time scoring mark at Tech. I mean, just so many storylines from last night. Elizabeth Kitley had a little bit of dramatics at the end of the first half, got hurt, walked it off, comes back, and goes like 5 of 5 to open the second half. Another double-double from her. Contributions up and down the entire roster because, I mean, they were up by so much. They were able to get some more run from some of their deeper bench pieces. I mean, just even if you didn't watch this game or hear about this game, seeing the final score, you're like, whoa, how did this happen? So, I mean, I don't know what you guys really want to focus on with this game specifically. If you want to talk about what happened last night, if you want to focus more on Louisville, I'm going to let you guys run with it. But I just know that probably around the midpoint of the second quarter was when I was working and I was thinking to myself, yeah, this game's done. Like this game is just, it's over. And it got to the point where it's like, all right, are they going to crack 100? And then they did. And then, no, it was just fascinating stuff to see from a team that's just, they're on such a roll right now. It's ridiculous to even think about. But, I mean, and that to me, that game sends a message. That game sends a message to the ACC and, frankly, to the committee. And especially if they take one of these games against Louisville or NC State, who they are absolutely in the same tier as, we're talking about them hosting a weekend for the NCAA tournament, which I would be very excited for. So I'm going to let you guys get started with this, and we'll move on to the men's team probably in like 7 minutes or so. But, no, just really encouraging stuff from the women's side last night.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was just a culmination of all the momentum they built up in recent games. There was no run by Syracuse. There was no sign of life. It was just a prime example of putting their foot on the pedal and not letting up. You know, that lead just kept growing and growing and growing and growing. And it was one of the most dominant performances from Tech women's basketball in I don't even know how long. I mean, it was just they all came together and it was just a complete performance. And it's exactly what they need before traveling to Louisville and what's probably going to be the most important game and toughest game because Louisville is 14-0 on their home court. So it's going to be a dogfight in that game. It really is. And Tech's got 2 opportunities to really make a case to maybe even move to the 4 line for the NCAA tournament because got 2 games, Louisville and at home against NC State. 2 very, very, very good opportunities to really make a statement to the committee. So they're peaking at the right time. They played well all season, but they're really peaking now. They had a come from behind victory against North Carolina, who just beat Louisville, and that was a storyline that was kind of developing during the Syracuse game. Tech still had to come out on top, but that was a storyline that kind of came out of nowhere. I don't think anyone really expected North Carolina, after kind of a demoralizing loss to Tech, to come out there and beat Louisville, and that's what they did. So it's going to be a huge game Sunday, and Tech's got a lot on their plate. Louisville is obviously a tremendous team, but I don't think it's out of the question that Tech can make some noise there. And who knows if Virginia Tech wins that game and moves to the 2 line in the ACC and plays NC State well and gets that game. Who knows where they're going to go in the seeding in terms of the NCAA tournament. And hey, those are two of the best teams in the country. So who knows what can happen in the tournament. So I think it's a really exciting time for Virginia Tech women's basketball. And I think Castle Coliseum is going to be jumping for that NC State game on the 27th.
No, I think you're absolutely right coming from the Mariana Trench or whatever you are, because I mean, my God, man, it is very dark where you are. No, you're absolutely right. And I'm currently looking at updated bracketology from the women's side. Tech is the highest 5 seed. So they're that close. They're that close. They're right behind Tennessee. Currently playing in the Knoxville region, according to Charlie Cream of ESPN. I mean, man, the atmosphere there would be electric if they were able to host. Ethan, you wanted to go ahead next?
I mean, first off, 102 with a 53 is insane at any level of basketball, beating a team that bad and scoring 100 plus points, and they're only scoring 53. That's just crazy. Like, I didn't get to watch the game personally, but I mean, yeah, looking at the box score, there was really no reason to go and tune into that game. But they're just rolling right now. They've been playing great. 5 wins in a row. They've been playing excellent. And any game that is at Castle Coliseum, they have an excellent chance of winning. I was there whenever they played Georgia Tech, and I mean, the fans were just going. I mean, it's any game that's played at Castle Coliseum absolutely can be a win, and they're just rolling right now, and the fans are going to build upon that.
I will add too, the Hokies had 4 players in double figures. That's a pretty big deal. And Louisville, that loss that they just had, it's going to take a little bit of their confidence away. That was their first loss in almost a month. And then Tech's coming off of this big win. I just think the whole momentum shift for them is going to be really good for Tech.
I will say too, I'm doing some very quick scouting right now. One of the reasons that Tech was able to dominate last night, obviously, Liz Kitley is one of the best players in the country. That's no doubt. But it helps when you have a size advantage like she did last night. Syracuse, I think their starting center was 6'3", and I'm looking right now. Louisville is not that big. They don't play their biggest players, and their number one rebounder is only 6'1". So obviously, it's the perfect combination for the women's team, which is Kitley down low. Everyone else is just a knockdown shooter. Shepard, Moore, all of them. Everyone can shoot, and Kitley just dominates the block and can just own the board. She can own the glass. So I think this is honestly a really good matchup. Just looking from, obviously, they're a really good team, but I think from a personnel standpoint, Tech matches up so well with them. And they really match up well with anyone in the country with that combination of size and shooting. That, I mean, frankly, not a lot of teams have. The best teams do, but that just proves to you that this Tech team can really make a deep run. What I wouldn't do to host a weekend here, that would be just fantastic for the program and for the fans. I mean, the fans would just go nuts for it. All right, I think, unless you guys have anything else, we can move on to the men's side now. All right, get some head shakes. All right, so let's move on to the men's side because they do have a big weekend as well. They are currently fighting for their life. According to Joe Lunardi, they are the last team on the bubble. They are the 4th team out of 4 on the next 4 out. So of those next 8 teams, they're 8. But they've got a big game tomorrow against UNC, a team that they lost to by 10 earlier in the year on the road. A game where their lack of size inside really did hurt them. But this is a team that's playing better interior defense, as we've seen in the last few games. Especially, I would like to point out the Pitt game where they held their leading scorer to 2 points across 2 games. So they played really much better interior defense. They're a team that's attacking the basket now. They're shooting more free throws than ever. And really, they're just shooting the ball incredibly well. They're hovering around or well above 50% during their win streak. So, yes, obviously, big game tomorrow because you take into account their ACC standing. They want to keep that up and up and up as they are currently sitting, I want to say, at 7th is what I saw from last night. But then also in net rankings, they are the 2nd best team in the ACC according to net. They're ahead of Wake. They're ahead of UNC. They're ahead of all of them. They're behind Duke, who's I think top 15. Tech is, I want to say, top 35. But they need that win in order to improve their standing nationally, to improve their standing in the eyes of the selection committee. When we come to Selection Sunday, and they learn their fate. They learn if they finally were able to work their way all the way back into that Field 68. So huge game. The ticket prices are ridiculous. I have not seen a basketball game hyped here as much as this. And it's crazy to think about because there have been, well, how do I say this? No, the last two teams I wouldn't say were better than this, but I mean last year's team I would say was better than this team. Maybe not at the highest points of either, but there has not been hype for a basketball game here like this one in my time here. The fact that when you go on, I went on SeatGeek the other day, there were 3 tickets posted for availability. All of them were more than $300. That is insane, but I'm very excited to see what the atmosphere is like. Unfortunately, I will not be able to attend. But just even watching the game or listening to the game, I expect to hear the I expect to hear the crowd going crazy.
It's kind of exactly what I said about the women's. I mean, men's basketball is also rolling right now. Any game in Castle, they're going to have a huge advantage. But I mean, Virginia Tech shouldn't be in this position right now. They lost a couple games. They lost to Boston College, lost to UNC. You lose to Miami on a half court heave, and everyone's like, season's over. Then you start streaking, and they keep on going. Now they got a huge matchup tomorrow that they pretty much have to win to stay alive, and it really feels like they should not be here right now because after that Miami loss, everyone kind of gave up on them, and now everyone is right back in because really they are back, and they have to win tomorrow, and they have a lot better chance. But they should not be there on the bubble right now. If you would have looked at this team a month ago, you would never thought they'd be in this position right now.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's kind of funny. I'm on the ESPN site right now looking. They've got the ticket prices. There's a couple crooked numbers on here, but you're looking at some of the matchups. Saturday, Boston College, Syracuse tickets as low as $5. Notre Dame, Wake Forest, which is a big ACC game, tickets as low as $24. Clemson, Louisville tickets as low as $24. And then you look at Virginia Tech and North Carolina, tickets as low as $307. And the only one that tops that is Florida State and Duke at $629, which it's a Coach K farewell tour. It's a rematch. The game Florida State took I think it was about a month ago, where they beat Duke. Still insane for a basketball game. Would not pay that much money to see a 7-8 Florida State team take on Duke, but it's a Coach K farewell tour. That's how it's going to be for the remainder of the season. But this game, I mean, it doesn't get bigger than this for Virginia Tech. This is you get past this game, you're kind of cruising. You still got to win the rest of I think they still need to win out, but that's not that tall of a task considering the rest of the schedule. But this Carolina team is probably one of the most inconsistent Carolina teams that we've seen in a long time. Because usually, I mean, in the past few years, it's either been Carolina's really good or Carolina struggles. And this year, Carolina's just good, but they just lost to Pitt at home. Now, Pitt has won 3 in a row, but it's still Pitt at the end of the day. A team Virginia Tech beat by 27 like a week or two ago. So Pittsburgh's not a good basketball team. North Carolina obviously has more talent. North Carolina, it's an interesting matchup for Virginia Tech because Armando Bacot down low is not necessarily the biggest guy Virginia Tech's faced. They face bigger guys, but he's a very physical rebounder, very smart player down low. He obviously had his way with Virginia Tech in Chapel Hill, but we'll see what happens on Saturday. I think it's going to be a very interesting matchup. Storm Murphy's definitely got his work cut out on defense with Caleb Love, certainly a better offensive player than Kihei Clark was on Monday night. So Castle's going to be absolutely packed. I think, it was very packed Monday against UVA, but this is a Saturday, 4:00 game. It's going to be absolutely rocking. Enter Sandman's going to be bizarre. The whole fan base is going to be behind the Hokies, and I think this is a game that Virginia Tech takes. I don't know how much it could be. I think it's going to be a close game. I think UNC's offense and their potential will definitely be there, but Virginia Tech's riding this hot streak. I don't think they hop off on Saturday. I think Tech takes this one, but it's going to be a dogfight for sure.
Yeah, I was just gonna bring up the fact that UNC just lost to Pitt like at home, and then now they're coming up to us, who's on a 6-game win streak at Tech. I don't see I could see that one. It's definitely going to be close, but I could see that one going to Tech as well, just because of where both teams are at right now.
Yeah, huge game, huge weekend. And on the other side of this break, we're going to talk about the rest of it because, like I said, football's done, unless you count spring football, which, but right now we are looking at the start of, or the start of the end of basketball, start of the end of hockey, and you're getting all the Olympic sports. You're getting baseball, you're getting softball, you're getting wrestling down to the wire. So on the other side of it, we're going to talk to you about what else is going on in Tech athletics right now. Stick around. You'll listen to the 3304 Daily.
Big Monday is back in Blacksburg as the Virginia Cavaliers travel to Castle Coliseum for Commonwealth Clash 2.0 to face off against the Virginia Tech Hokies. And now look how loud it is here in Blacksburg. Just take a minute to take it all in here on 3304 Sports. Murphy over now to Aluma on the right wing. Hands it off to Naheem Aline, who pump fakes now back out to the logo. Over to Keve Aluma with 3 seconds to shoot. He puts it up from the baseline for 2 and sinks it. Nothing but net for Keve Aluma, and the Hokies strike first here in Blacksburg. It's 2-0 Virginia Tech. Top of the key, Aluma nearly had it stolen away. Now over to Mutz, who hands it off to Darius Maddox, right baseline. 3, swish! Hokies have a lead. It's a 1-point advantage for Virginia Tech. It's a cutting Maddox, left wing. Over now up top to Keve Aluma. Thought about a 3. He's not going to take it. Will drive down low with 7 seconds to shoot. 22 Maroon puts it up for 2 and gets it to go. Hokies once again retake the lead back and forth here in Blacksburg early on. It's 9-8 Virginia Tech. 15 seconds to shoot, now over to Poindexter, working on Sean Padula, pulls it back out with 8 seconds to shoot. Hokies defense is swarming tonight. Armand Franklin drives in low, pulls up from the free throw line, and gets a runner to go. Reese Beekman, top of the key, gets a screen from Gardner, now over to the East Carolina transfer from the right block, pulls up for 2, nothing but nylon. Murphy now on the right wing, tries an open 3, that's money from downtown. Hokies are within 2, 18-16 Virginia with 6:55 to play. Padula hands it over to Justin Mutz. Now back up top to David Gasson, who swings it over to Darius Maddox on the right wing. Maddox tries to get something going, over now to Hunter Couture straight away. 20 seconds to shoot, now over to Sean Padula, left wing. Tried to get a screen, won't get it, and we'll pull it back out with 15 seconds to shoot. Over now to Justin Mutz, who gets it over to David Gasson. Hand off Hunter Couture, drives in low. Now a no-look dish to David Gasson, who slams it home for 2. All tied up at 25. Cafaro top of the key with 17 seconds to shoot. Now over to Malachi Poindexter on the right wing, working on Darius Maddox. Over now to Beekman with 12 seconds to shoot. Gardner down low now with 10 seconds to shoot. Pump fakes, puts it up for 2 and rattles one home. Cavaliers once again retake the lead as Jaden Gardner is taking over. He's got 15 already here in Blacksburg, and the Hokies trail by 2 with 40 seconds to play. And Virginia will go into the locker room with a 29-25 lead here in Blacksburg. Now,
Mutz backing down Gardner, lays it up with the right hand, too short, offensive rebound poked up by Mutz, and he lays it off the glass and in. Strong drive by Justin Mutz, and he's got the first bucket of the second half for the Hokies. Gardner fading away, 15-footer, rattled off the rim, fell off the left side, rebound Storm Murphy. Crossing the timeline is Murphy, off the screen from Aluma, dish to the inside, Keve Aluma slams it down with authority, and Blacksburg is dynamite tonight. Is Kihei Clark, Clark at Murphy, from the top of the key, gives it off, Beekman left wing. Coming off the Shedrick screen, Beekman with the right hand, stuffs it home. And we are tied in Blacksburg. Beekman once again crossing midcourt on that vaunted VT logo if you're a Wahoo fan. Lob to the inside and the stuff home for Caden Shedrick. Aline, fancy dribbling, 10 seconds on the shot clock on the Carillion Clinic logo. Justin Mutz, baseline drive from the right side. This to Aluma, who soars into the night sky and slams it down. Hokies lead by 6. Tony Bennett wants to talk things over. Timeout Virginia. 2:16 left to go in the game. Hunter Couture thought about a 3, left wing. Justin Mutz inside now, left block, Keve Aluma. Here's Aluma from 15 feet away. Backing down Shedrick. Back to Aluma. Keve fades away from 15 and he rattles it home. Up and over Caden Shedrick. Hokies lead it by 8 as we approach a minute to go in the ball game. Beekman. Top of the key, guarded by Keve Aluma, crossing on Keve, lost his dribble momentarily, Beekman a drive, lays it up with the left hand, no, rebound is there, Naheem Aline tipped it to Hunter Couture, and they're gonna run out the clock. Tony Bennett calls off the guard. Clock continues to wind. 3, 2, and 1. Virginia Tech has won 6 straight. And they're starting to make their case for the NCAA tournament. 62-53, the final score from Blacksburg.
Welcome back on a Friday, 33:04 daily. Ryan Wilkes has left us. He is currently looking for some light. Poor guy. So we're going to talk a little bit. Hey, we got him. Thumbs up, everybody. All right. So I think it's perfect that we're transitioning into this topic now, talking more about Tech athletics, because first pitch for Tech baseball, I think, just got thrown. I think they're just now starting their game against UNC Asheville. First game of the season, first series of the season over at English Field. So they're starting off. Ryan, are you beat writing for baseball again this year?
Yeah, I am. I'm going to do some of that for them. So that'll be a lot of fun. It's going to be an interesting team. That's for sure. I don't really know what to expect right now. I know pitching is definitely something to keep an eye on. Not sure if that's a good or a bad thing yet. I guess we'll see with that, but should be a fun season. Again, Tech baseball was a lot of fun last year, and I think it'll be similar this year. So
a lot of young talent from last season's team, pretty much all of it back. Gavin Cross, probably the storyline. I mean, he's one of the top-rated prospects in all of college. In all of, what would you call that? Prospectum? I don't know. But no, he is definitely one of the most hyped prospects out there. So, yeah, pitching, that's definitely the headliner. Obviously, UNC Asheville, it's a lesser opponent, so, maybe you don't expect to take much out of this series. But, hey, first pitch going on right now. Ryan, what do you think the story of this season is going to look like? Because last year it was second half of the season and they couldn't win any series. They couldn't win any games. They started off hot, but deeper into ACC play, they struggled. Do we see a turnaround from this team?
See, it's hard to tell right now because you lose a guy like Kevin Madden, who was obviously one of the bigger impact players on that team last year, transferred to South Carolina. And it was a tough way to go out in that season. It was a lot of fun to begin with. It continued to be a lot of fun throughout the season. It was one of the first, I believe it was the first sport to start allowing attendance back. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a no capacity limit, and it was, good weather. A lot of people came out. Still a very enjoyable experience, regardless of the result. But it was a tough way to watch that team kind of unravel. It was just a very, I don't think it could have been much worse down the stretch in that season. Just couldn't close out games, struggling, couldn't, the offensive production wasn't there. I believe the hammer didn't come out for quite a few games there. I do think this is another team that's going to have a lot of offense. You've got Gavin Cross coming back, who has potential to be one of the highest drafted Virginia Tech baseball players of all time. He's a tremendous player. But again, like I said, pitching is going to be something to watch. It's probably going to be the story. I don't think the offense is as much of a question. I think the offense is certainly going to be there, whether or not we see that today in today's game, because, again, it is the first game of the season. But I think the offense is going to produce. But pitching, there's certainly some question marks there. I think those are going to come to light. I think the depth of the bullpen is going to be interesting to see how that all comes together and see some of the steps in the right direction that players have made. I know, I think Sam Alves on Twitter talked about how Griffin Green had taken a lot of strides in the offseason, and Coach Sheff was very high on him. He's getting the start today. So we'll see how Griffin Green plays in this game, and Ryan Akuda is getting the start tomorrow. So those are two guys that I think Tech wants to see a lot of improvement out of, and I think that will add to their depth pitching wise. And last year, I know the bullpen was a big issue. The depth was a big issue, kind of off and on here and there. But it's going to be an interesting season. That's all I can really say at this point. I don't know in what way it's going to be interesting. It could go one of two ways. Obviously, it could go similar to last year, where a hot start and bad finish, or Tech could be a more complete team this year and have a more complete season, because it was definitely a tale of two halves last year with the season. First half great, second half couldn't really get any worse. So we'll see how this season goes for the Hokies.
I think I think I definitely want this show to have a very large focus on college baseball and college softball this season. Not just because it's entertaining to watch, and it's really entertaining. Like watching the Hammer, that is developed into a brand for Virginia Tech baseball, so that adds to the entertainment value. But I mean, frankly, we don't have other baseball to talk about. I mean, we can just talk about how long the lockout's going to go on, but no, I really do want to focus more on not just Tech baseball and softball, which deserve it, but I really do want to focus on the whole college, world, because again, we really have no other baseball to talk about, and we're gonna get to a point where basketball done, hockey's done, and it's just baseball, and we may or may not have the MLB, so we're gonna have to talk about something. So I think that focusing on college baseball this season and just the excitement level of it, I think that can be something that we can do and have a lot of fun with. All right, let's shift to the softball team because they are playing today. They don't play right now. If you were on the Hokie Sports website earlier, as we discovered during pregame, it was a little glitched out. It thought that Tech was Evansville and that Alabama was Middle Tennessee State. That's not the case. Tech does not play right now. They play at 5. They actually do play at 5. They play the number 2 team in the country, Alabama. So, I mean, hey, that's what we're talking about. We're looking for entertaining matchups. That's the matchup of the weekend in college softball, unless I just have missed something else on the slate. I mean, 2 top 10 teams going at it this early in the season. You can't really top that much. So, seeing them play Alabama tonight, it's gonna be a lot of fun because you're gonna see them try their best. Like they're gonna see them. I mean, obviously they put their best foot forward in the tournament last week, and now you're going up against just another animal, a team that has national championship aspirations, and obviously Tech does too. But Ryan's gone right now. He walked away from his computer, but he was talking about in pre-show that if they win tonight, that's when the national championship hype starts to grow for this Tech team. And I completely agree. I think it's already there, but that would just add another level to it. And I mean, again, we've talked about it. We've talked about it like with you guys on. Ethan, you talked about wrestling when you brought up the topic of which Tech team is closest to winning a national championship right now. Softball and wrestling are very popular answers. If softball gets this win tonight, it becomes not. Is it crazy to say expectation? I don't think it's the expectation, but it becomes a goal. It becomes an attainable landmark that this team can compete with the best and can win a national title. Again, it's very early in the season, but we know how good they are. We know how close they were a season ago. We know that they have the pieces. Then it just comes down to burden of proof. And they win tonight. Man, I mean, who's going to stop the train? It doesn't seem like a lot of people. So I want to get your guys' thoughts on the game tonight. I definitely will be watching. I mean, I'm going to be at work, so it's going to be tough to, watch the whole game. But I'm definitely going to be following along with it because, look, they deserve it. And they're going to be a team that's going to be vying for the first team national championship in Virginia Tech history. So anything they do, especially in a matchup this big, this early on in the season, it deserves attention. So, yeah, I mean, that's where it is. Ryan, you're back. Welcome back from whatever you just had to do. But you said it in pre-show. You said if this team wins tonight, national championship talk is what's going to be going on.
Yeah, sure. It's a long season, obviously, and there's a lot of really good teams in this year's softball. I mean, but Tech, I think they were one really good pitcher away from being in contention, and they got that. They've got 3 really solid pitchers with Rochard, Lemmy, and Osborne. Those are 3 really good options you've got to pitch. And, Rochard was kind of the arm last year. Osborne was coming on too, but she was a freshman. So, Rochard was carrying a lot of the load there, but now she's got some help. And the offense is the offense. It was what it was last year, just as good, maybe even better. So this is a team. I mean, they beat the number 2 team in the country. There's early in the season where, they could still be shaking some rust off. I mean, I think it just shows how good they can be. And I think Virginia Tech has obviously the potential to win the ACC, but if they win today, I think they don't only have the potential to win the ACC. I think they have potential to win the whole thing. This is a very, very good softball team. Going 5-0 in a tournament with multiple ranked teams in it is not an easy task at all. And they did that. So I think the sky's the limit for this team. And I think obviously if they win today, you're going to hear a lot of talk about, is this the team? And yeah, it's early, but this will be what, their third or fourth ranked win. So I think there's a lot to take away from that. You can't just sit there and be like, oh, it's early on the season, blah, 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 blah. No, they're being ranked teams early on the season. And not only ranked teams, but top 15 teams. It's not like these teams are right on the outside. This is Missouri, top 15 team. I think Michigan State was ranked as well. So this is a really, really talented softball team. And I think the discussions are certainly going to get underway if Tech can beat the number 2 team of the country today.
All right, I did want to break in a little bit with a little bit of breaking news, courtesy of Jeff Passan. Major League Baseball has officially postponed spring training games through March 5th. So we have just lost a week of spring training games. They would have started next Saturday and then Saturday after that. So all those games, gone, kaput. So there is now not a full spring training. This is kind of what's been expected to happen now at this point. It just comes down to, okay, will they play a shortened spring training? And at what point will we start to see the loss of regular season games? Jeff Passan, as well as other reporters yesterday, talked about how the MLB and the Players Association will be starting to meet more frequently. I think they're going to meet at least once a day starting Monday. So they're going to take the weekend off, go play golf or whatever they do, being billionaires. But they're going to try to sort something out, and they have to within the coming week, or else we start to enter the danger zone. And I don't know. That obviously was at some point doomed to happen, but it's just so predictable, and it's just disappointing. I don't want to turn this into another MLB segment. I just wanted to break in with that news. Amber, Ethan, unless either of you guys have anything to say about the softball team, I think we can hand it over to Ethan to talk a little bit about wrestling.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything else on the softball because Ryan kind of hit all the points that I was kind of thinking. But man, anything in Castle Coliseum right now is great. What are they, 10-0 in February in Castle between men's and women's basketball and wrestling? But wrestling's very exciting right now. They have UVA tonight to add up that Commonwealth Clash score a little bit more. I believe that Tech should roll through UVA pretty easily. But, the real exciting one is against NC State this Sunday. I believe 19 out of 20 wrestlers are ranked. And then not only that, there's like a massive matchup at 174 between our national champion, Mekhi Lewis, and NC State's Hayden Hidlay, who Hidlay's never lost in the ACC, and he's on a 40-plus match dual win streak. So it's like kind of unstoppable force and movable object because Mekhi, like we know, he's been crazy, won the national championship, redshirted for the Olympics. The Olympics didn't happen. Then he got injured. But it's going to be very exciting if you're a wrestling fan. This might be one of the biggest matchups, not only for Hokie wrestling, not only for NC State, not only for ACC, but like all of the NCAA. This will be a massive matchup on Sunday. They're very exciting, and it's just a great time to really be a Hokie fan in general with all the winning that's been going on.
So help me out here a little bit, Ethan. I'm not a huge follower of the wrestler scene. So you were telling me in pre-show that the NC State matchup, it's not a redo of the one that got canceled due to COVID. Tech is still taking a forfeit there due to problems within the. Well, actually, we don't know exactly what happened with that cancellation yet. Still, do we?
Some people said that it was COVID because some of the wrestlers didn't wrestle the next weekend, but it's also the weekend of the big snow. But I think it's just per ACC rules that Tech had to forfeit, which really kind of screws Tech over because, if they go and win out this weekend between Virginia and NC State, they'd have a very, very good chance, or I guess they would win the ACC. But now, since they already have a loss against NC State, I don't think they can win the ACC unless UNC beat NC State tonight, which I think is pretty unlikely.
Well, that would be regular season, right? We still have ACC championships to get to. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
well, that'll be regular season. Then they have the championships in Charlottesville on March 6th.
All right. And then what are we looking at national-wise? How many of Tech's guys are looking to go to the NCAAs?
Well, obviously they have 9 of 10 ranked right now, so at least 9. Then of course I believe it's Ulray. He's not ranked, but he's still an excellent wrestler. He might not get an at-large bid if he don't do, if he didn't make it to one of the automatic bids in the ACC. But I think very well he could place top 4, or I think it's top 4 in the ACC to get one of those automatic bids. I believe Tech could have all 10 in and have a shot at making some serious like contention in that top spot for the NCAA tournament.
All right, so highlight a couple names for me. Mekhi Lewis is obviously the star. Like he's the national champion. He's the face of the program at the moment. But they've got a lot of other quality guys, like you've mentioned. Who are some other guys that you think could not only compete at the ACC level, but could maybe make some noise at the nationals?
Well, Corbin Myers and Bryce Andonian's both ranked number 5. Nathan Traxler, he's an excellent wrestler. He's one of those guys, like this is going to kind of anomaly because he took his COVID year. He's already made the NCAA tournament 4 times. This will be his 5th year in the NCAA tournament this year. And I mean, he won the Pac-12 once. He could go for an ACC this year. I think besides Mekhi Lewis, it's going to be Corbin Myers or Bryce Andonian because both of them have been wrestling excellently. They're both ranked pretty high. Of course, Hunter Boland, he's kind of the hometown kid from Christiansburg. He's been excellent in his senior year. I think a lot of them have a serious chance of placing high or in the All-American honors. Of course, Sam Latona did last year as a freshman, not having quite as good year this year, but he could go and run it back once again. I think there should be plenty of All-Americans, hopefully 1 or 2 champions, and Tech will have a serious shot at winning the whole thing.
All right, Ethan, thank you for that wrestling update. So yeah, a lot of exciting stuff going on in Tech Athletics right now. Got softball and baseball going up this week, wrestling having a big end of their season as well, and then both basketball teams are just on fire. And very exciting times right now. All right, let's throw it over to Amber Williams. Amber, we talked a little bit about the Olympics a couple episodes ago, or probably about last week, and we talked about how maybe the Olympics is something that has just passed you by, but it doesn't seem like you are in that category. You enjoy the Olympics.
Yes, I really do, especially the Winter Olympics. They are my favorite. And there's a lot going on this year. I do agree. I feel like it's not as much coverage on it, but there's some things that should be paid attention to. For one, Shaun White, the infamous snowboarder, has made his 5th and final Olympic appearance. He's a 3-time gold medalist, and he's the most decorated Olympic snowboarder ever. But for his final performance, he ended up falling on his qualifying run, but he was still able to qualify for the final because he came in 4th. But he actually left Beijing now without a medal due to falling in his half pipe run. So it's like incredibly bittersweet because everybody's excited. He's just ended this incredible career. He's by far the best snowboarder we've seen, but he wasn't able to pull off that like magical like final season kind of. But he seems to already be enjoying retirement. He made an appearance at the Super Bowl. And I just think it's something to acknowledge that such a legendary career has ended. And I just think it's such a shame that he didn't get any medals, but that's how it works. It's not always the perfect like tie-up story. But overall, the Olympics has been going pretty good for the United States. They have 8 gold medals, 8 silver, and 5 bronze as of this time on February 18th. One I really want to highlight is Lindsay Jacobellis. So she won her first gold medal last Wednesday, and she was actually what opened the U.S. medal collection for 2022, which, by the way, is kind of strange this year because even though they're doing good, they're like 3rd for medal count right now. It took them 5 days into competition to get this gold medal, which is very unusual for the United States. But this was Lindsay's 5th time competing in the Winter Olympics and her first gold medal. So I think there's still these incredible stories that are going on. And she just got another one for mixed team snowboard cross as well. So lots of incredibly exciting things going on with the Olympics. It'll be wrapping up Sunday. Currently, Norway is in the lead, but we will see which country will come away with the most gold.
So how many events do we have left? How many? Because at this point, again, I'm not a strong follower of it, so I will claim arrogance here, or ignorance. I mean, it seems like we get through so many so quickly, and then it takes like 3 days to get through an entire event, or an entire sport. So what are we looking at left here? And if we want to focus on American athletes, themselves, how many are up for contention?
Yeah, I'm actually not sure of that one either. I'm looking right now, and it says that the looks like the big ones we have left are the men's half pipe and the four-man bobsleigh is the big ones that we have left for the United States.
All right. So what would you say are some of what would you say are some of the highlights from this Olympics overall? I mean, you mentioned some, big names. Shaun White, obviously one of the most iconic American athletes ever. What would you say are just some other things to know about the Olympics? It could be American, it could be international, whatever you want.
Yeah, so Chloe Kim for Team USA, she actually became the first woman to win back-to-back gold medals for women's half pipe. So that's a very big deal. And the US ended up winning gold in the inaugural mixed team aerials event, which is basically like freestyle, but this is the first time it's ever been in the Olympics. So the fact that the United States was able to win that was pretty cool. Erin Jackson became the first Black woman to win an individual speed skating medal at the Winter Olympics, and she got gold for the 500 meter. And there's also another new competition called the Monobob, which is basically a one-person bobsled event. And that made it its Olympics debut as well, with Kaylee Humphreys also taking home the gold for the US and the third of her career. So I think it's just kind of cool that like the United States seems to be kind of dominating in all of these new sports that are popping up for the Olympics. So I think that's a cool story for years to come, like with these new sports continuing, if the legacy is going to continue for the United States to be the dominant team in these new ones.
All right, Amber, thank you for that. I think we want to take a quick break here right before the end of the show, and we'll come back. And you know what, guys? I think during this break, why don't we just come together and let's do a quick version of what you're watching tonight, and just go out, find a big matchup, just go to ESPN real quick, go through any league you want, and let's talk about it. We'll come to the end, and that's how we'll end our week. All right, stay tuned. You're listening to the 3304 Daily.
Big Monday is back in Blacksburg as the Virginia Cavaliers travel to Castle Coliseum for Commonwealth Clash 2.0 to face off against the Virginia Tech Hokies. And now look how loud it is here in Blacksburg. Just take a minute to take it all in here on 3304 Sports. Murphy over now to Aluma on the right wing. Hands it off to Naheem Aline, who pump fakes now back out to the logo. Over to Keve Aluma with 3 seconds to shoot. He puts it up from the baseline for two and sinks it. Nothing but net for Keve Aluma, and the Hokies strike first here in Blacksburg. It's 2-0 Virginia Tech. Top of the key, Aluma nearly had it stolen away. Now over to Mutz, who hands it off to Darius Maddox, right baseline. Three, swish! Hokies have a lead. It's a 1-point advantage for Virginia Tech. It's a cutting Maddox, left wing. Over now up top to Keve Aluma. Thought about a three. He's not going to take it. Will drive down low with 7 seconds to shoot. 22 Maroon puts it up for two and gets it to go. Hokies once again retake the lead back and forth here in Blacksburg early on. It's 9-8 Virginia Tech. 15 seconds to shoot, now over to Poindexter, working on Sean Padula, pulls it back out with 8 seconds to shoot. Hokies defense is swarming tonight. Armand Franklin drives in low, pulls up from the free throw line, and gets a runner to go. Reese Beekman, top of the key, gets a screen from Gardner, now over to the East Carolina transfer from the right block, pulls up for two, nothing but nylon. Murphy now on the right wing, tries an open three. That's money from downtown. Hokies are within two, 18-16 Virginia with 6:55 to play. Padula hands it over to Justin Mutz. Now back up top to David Gassan, who swings it over to Darius Maddox on the right wing. Maddox tries to get something going, over now to Hunter Couture straight away. 20 seconds to shoot, now over to Sean Padula, left wing. Tried to get a screen, won't get it, and we'll pull it back out with 15 seconds to shoot. Over now to Justin Mutz, who gets it over to David Gassan. Hand off Hunter Couture, drives in low. Now a no-look disc to David Gassan, who slams it home for two. All tied up at 25. Cafaro top of the key with 17 seconds to shoot. Now over to Malachi Poindexter on the right wing, working on Darius Maddox. Over now to Beekman with 12 seconds to shoot. Gardner down low now with 10 seconds to shoot. Pump fakes, puts it up for two, and rattles one home. Cavaliers once again retake the lead as Jaden Gardner is taking over. He's got 15 already here in Blacksburg, and the Hokies trail by two with 40 seconds to play. And Virginia will go into the locker room with a 29-25 lead here in Blacksburg. Now,
Mutz backing down Gardner, lays it up with the right hand, too short, offensive rebound poked up by Mutz, and he lays it off the glass and in. Strong drive by Justin Mutz, and he's got the first bucket of the second half for the Hokies. Gardner fading away, 15-footer, rattled off the rim, fell off the left side, rebound Storm Murphy. Crossing the timeline is Murphy. Off the screen from Aluma, dish to the inside! Keve Aluma slams it down with authority, and Blacksburg is dynamite tonight. Is Kihei Clark. Clark at Murphy. From the top of the key, gives it off, Beekman left wing. Coming off the Shedrick screen, Beekman with the right hand stuffs it home. And we are tied in Blacksburg. Beekman once again crossing midcourt on that vaunted VT logo if you're a Wahoo fan. Lob to the inside and the stuff home for Caden Shedrick. Aline, fancy dribbling, 10 seconds on the shot clock on the Carillion Clinic logo. Justin Mutz, baseline drive from the right side. This to Aluma, who soars into the night sky and slams it down. Hokies lead by 6. Tony Bennett wants to talk things over. Timeout Virginia. 2:16 left to go in the game. Hunter Couture thought about a 3 left wing. Justin Mutz inside now left block. Keve Aluma. Here's Aluma from 15 feet away. Backing down Shedrick. Back to Aluma. Keve fades away from 15 and he rattles it home. Up and over Caden Shedrick. Hokies lead it by 8 as we approach a minute to go in the ball game. Beekman. Top of the key, guarded by Keve Aluma, crossing on Keve, lost his dribble momentarily. Beekman a drive, lays it up with the left hand. No, rebound is there. Naheem Aline tipped it to Hunter Couture, and they're going to run out the clock. Tony Bennett calls off the guard. Clock continues to wind. 3, 2, and 1. Virginia Tech has won 6 straight. And they're starting to make their case for the NCAA tournament. 62-53, the final score from Blacksburg.
All right, welcome back to 3304 Daily, final 4 minutes of the week. All right, we're going to do a quick little impromptu, a little improvised What You Watching edition for today, and then we'll get it started next week officially. All right, so I'm going to throw this out. How about the Rising Stars game for NBA All-Star Weekend? I really like the way that they're switching up the format with these 4 teams of 7 doing a little mini tournament against each other. And if I wanted to throw a name out there to interest you, how about for Team Barry, a team featuring Cade Cunningham, Jayshawn Tate, Franz Wagner? How about Evan Mobley? How about him going off this weekend? And right now I'm seeing the number of him scoring 12.5 points in the first game. I like the over in that one. So I really like the way that they're changing it up. NBA All-Star Weekend, it does a good job of keeping the games interesting, of keeping things fresh, you know, whether it's changes to the dunk contest, changes to the three-point contest with a money ball rack. I like the new ways they shake things up, and I really think that adding in this mini tournament to the Rising Stars Challenge, I really like that. So I'll be checking that out, and I'll definitely be looking for Evan Mobley and that Cade Cunningham duo to be tearing it up for Team Barry. All right, let's go over to Ryan here. What are you going to be watching this weekend?
Yeah, this weekend I'm definitely tuning into the dunk contest and the 3-point contest. I think it's a tough time to introduce this, being that there's really not much going on tonight specifically. No top 25 basketball matchups. NBA All-Star Weekend coming up. But I think this dunk contest is going to be really interesting because you got a couple guys. Well, you got one guy that's coming back from last year, Obi Toppin, possibly looking to, maybe have a bit of a better performance than he had last year. Last year's dunk contest was kind of weak. But Cole Anthony, you got Jalen Green, Obi Toppin, and Juan Toscano Anderson. Should be a very interesting dunk contest. And I'm sure the All-Star game will provide too. And you got the 3-point contest later on. So it's always fun to tune into these things. And I think it'll be another good year for it again.
I'm gonna triple down on that. I looked through all the games and everything, didn't really see anything for tonight. But of course, the NBA at a break right now, so they have all their all-star stuff. You mentioned the rookie showcase, and Ryan mentioned, the 3-point contest and the dunk contest. The all-star game has been very entertaining ever since they added that whole, I guess it was the year that Kobe passed away. They added like the whole Kobe rule. You score 24 at the end like they do in the, I believe, TBT tournament during the summer, which is always entertaining. I think that's really entertaining, at least for the fourth quarter. to watch the All-Stars go back and forth. It seems like they really do try now, at least these past 2 years in these All-Star games. And I do like all the rules change they've added. I think the rookie showcase will be interesting. Of course, the 3-point and the dunk contest is always interesting. But the All-Star game, it's not something you just look past anymore. It's actually really entertaining now.
All right, Amber, what do you got for us to wrap us up on a Friday? We looking at Olympics here? What do you got?
I'm actually throwing it over to NHL. There's not an incredible one, but tonight the one I'm kind of interested in is the Panthers versus the Wild at 8 p.m. Panthers are number 1 in the Atlantic, and they have a very similar record to the Wild, who are second in the Central Division. So I think that's just going to be a really good matchup of very similar teams. So it's going to be a close one.
Yeah, 2 good teams there in the NHL. All right, so I think that's a success. I think we can go take that to the drawing board and watch those games this weekend, see how we like the idea, and then we can get rolling back with it on a Monday. And speaking of rolling back on it with a Monday, thank you guys for listening this week. Have a good weekend. Take care, everyone.